Hello, everybody. Tim Hughes here. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite. Today, I'm with Nicolas, and we're going to talk about various things to do with technology and digital transformation. And before we get into that, Nicolas, where can people find you?
So people can find me pretty much anywhere. You can start on Twitter at NicoChan33, on LinkedIn, Nicolas Babin, email npbabin@gmail.com. They can just find me on the internet.
You are very prolific on social.
Yeah,
if they can't find you, I don't think they're trying hard enough.
It'll be hard. Yes, you're right.
So give us a little bit about your background and your story, because you've got a fascinating story and of how you've been involved in tech and how you've built up a very strong blogger and social reputation in tech. Plus, you've been involved in some amazing, exciting projects, and you've written a book, which I'm sure you'll mention.
I'll mention it, and I'll even show it.
There you go.
Immersion in new technologies, as you can see. Yes, I've been extremely lucky because I've been in business for over 35 years, and I've been extremely lucky. I left France, where I'm from, as you can all tell from my strong French accent. I left France and went to California back in 1989. And at the time, I was there when the first internet floppy disks were available, and it was fascinating to see people sharing with CompuServe, people sharing recipes and things like that in California. And I was working for a French bank at the time, and I remember setting up the first email system for that French bank. And so everything used to be done by fax at the time. And so I installed that first email system, which was called Da Vinci. Was really one of the first one. And I remember in the morning coming into the bank and people telling me, "We've got a mail from Paris." It was wow. Well, obviously now 30 years later, it makes us laugh. But at the time, it was really a big deal. Then moving back to Europe, I was in charge of ETAC, which was a division of Sony, where we launched the first GPS system in the UK. I was based in Hammersmith, near London, and we launched the first GPS system with digital mapping, which we built ourselves. And after that, I was promoted and head of the robotic and artificial intelligence, Aibo dog, hence the talking dog. It looked a little bit like that.
Yep.
And it was the first time, and it still is pretty much the first entertainment, AI-based entertainment robot available and sold in retail. So we sold that across Europe. Obviously, it was sold also in the US and in Japan. And so every time, I've been lucky that I was there when it started to happen, and things that we see today in our daily lives. And that's why I decided to write that book when we were in lockdown in France back in last year, like pretty much everybody else thought.
And the book's now you wrote it in French, but the book's now been translated into English, Portuguese, and German.
Correct. I've used my network for that. I speak English, French, and German, so that but even in German, I use some of my friends to help me out. In Portuguese, my sister-in-law is Brazilian, and so she thought the book was great, and I sent her the English version, and she translated it into Portuguese. So I don't speak Portuguese at all. I just want to be honest here and transparent. Yeah, obrigado. Obrigada comes from for a woman, if I understand correctly.
Yeah. So fantastic. So you've been, as I said, been involved in this a load of tech things. So we've actually got some tech items here that we were going to walk through. Mm-hmm. So the first one, I thought you suggested that before we came on, which is top of mind as we're speaking in November 2021, because Facebook has just changed its name to Meta. So what is the Metaverse?
So Metaverse is actually a vision that Mark Zuckerberg has, and it's great because every CEO has to have a vision, and the vision is the top of the mountain. So one day he'll reach that, but today it's not ready. It's as I said, it's a vision. It's something you and I have seen before with Second Life back in 2005, if I can remember correctly. And at the beginning, it was really like metaverse meaning beyond the universe, so having several universes, if I can say that in English. And here it's really the mix between digital and physical, because today the technology is ready for that. We obviously have a lot that can help us build that metaverse, and that's what Zuckerberg is doing. Seriously, when he bought Oculus last year or 2 years ago, people started to think about it, and I've read a lot of
So
things.
that's the what he bought was
the VR glasses,
virtual reality goggle company, didn't he?
Absolutely. So he bought them maybe 2 years ago,
Yes.
and that was just the beginning of I guess his thoughts about the metaverse. But I read a lot of things from a gentleman called Matthew Ball, who's an investor in new technologies, and he's been writing about metaverse since 2017, but mostly at the time around gaming, because obviously when you're in a game, you can put yourself, have your avatar and have yourself be part of that. If I can also give an example, back in 2004, Sony invented a game on PlayStation 2 at the time, and where people will be digitized. And so you could clean windows. So you had to do it very fast. You could play karate against people coming at you. That was maybe just the beginning of what we call today metaverse, because you are a physical, obviously, person, and you are enter into a different universe. So today, all the technologies that we see and that I talk about in my book is available. You can have metaverse if you don't have payment online, if you don't have cybersecurity, if you don't have the power of computing, if you don't have the bandwidth coming from 5G, for example, if you don't have VR, we mentioned AR, ER for extended reality, which is a mix of virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality. So all these words, but I want to make sure everybody understands that metaverse is not only about a different reality world. It's a mix of a lot of things. It's a mix of what's available today. And that's why it's really fascinating that Zuckerberg is coming out with this. I honestly thought Google will do it.
Yeah, I think it's Mark has made a big it's a big announcement and he wants to take a stake in the ground because in terms of the direction. So while we're there, why don't we talk about the difference between virtual reality and augmented reality? Because you've actually done some work in VR and AR, haven't you? Especially around some of the work that when you were in China.
That's correct. Virtual reality basically is, as you mentioned, you wear goggles and you are put into a different world. Today, a lot of games use that. Obviously, PlayStation 5 has that standard. So you can play in front of your TV and you see things arriving and only you see those because you're the only one with the goggles. But basically it gives you in a virtual world. Augmented reality is a little bit different. You can have it on the internet. And augmented reality, let's say you go around the map, and in each places that you should see, for example, let's go around London, you see some museums or whatever.
So with augmented reality, you can use it with a phone. So that's where Pokemon Go and that is.
That's correct.
From, isn't it?
Well, the Tube map today is in augmented reality. So for example, when you arrive at Piccadilly Circus, you can see Piccadilly Circus from your phone saying, oh, these are the places you can visit. So it makes it much more engaging, right? Extended reality is the mix of both. So you're in a virtual world and you can see things also that's augmented compared to if you were to see it just as standard, right? So one example that I can give is a big project that I had in China where we had to train operators in a factory where basically they had to turn valves. There was a lot of pressure coming. It was a chemical factory, and these operators had to go around and run literally towards a place where there was a problem. So an alarm will come off, and they will have to run towards the problem and turn the valve in order to lower the pressure. We found that by building 3D mapping, so you have a standard map of the factory. Out of that standard map, you have software that allow you to have 3D vision of the map. And then you can add augmented reality to it. So for example, when you train your operator, you don't need to have them run to the place to see how to turn the valve. They can just simply, by looking at the map of the factory, see where the problem can be and see what effects it can do if you turn one way or if you turn the other way. For example, if you turn the wrong way, the factory could blow up, right? Well, obviously, you're not prepared to blow up a factory, but in augmented reality, you can make it blow up, and it doesn't cost you more than that, but at least it's good training for people. So you gain on engagement. So it's a little bit of gamification behind it, because that's one of my passion, if I could say. It's a little bit of gamification because you have some gamifications about creating engagement, and here you create great engagement, and then you have a much better way of training people, because they are more being more engaged and being kind of a game. Basically, it's work. I don't want people to think, oh, he's going to put everything as games. It's not game. It's work, but it's using game mechanics to make sure
driving the right behaviors.
Absolutely, that's it. And behavior is also something really important for Metaverse, because you want people to engage in their new universe. You want people to talk. You want people to exchange data, to exchange products, because again, you have the economy angle around Metaverse. So all this, again, it all makes sense. And that's why it's really important to understand that Metaverse comes now, because the technology is ready now. And 2 years ago, Mark Zuckerberg could not have mentioned this launch. It would not have been possible. You needed to wait, as I mentioned before, about the 5G launch and all the others.
Right. Okay. So next on the list I've got, which is another one subject area that you're very passionate and very strong about, robotics.
Yes, robotics. As I mentioned before, I launched the first entertainment robot in Europe, which was called Aibo. I think many people probably have seen it. It was the Sony Aibo dog.
I remember it. Yeah.
You remember? We launched it in the UK. It was a big deal because it was one of our strongest country. We sold it through many retailers, and robotics today has made such an impact in our everyday lives. I mean, for example, working with Amazon, I can see in their buildings everywhere that they use robots for everything. So I'm really want to make a point here that robots are not to replace humans, but they are to augment humans, and that I've been saying that since 1999 when I started with Aibo, because I had people. I remember being in Manchester at the Old Trafford Centre, because Old Trafford is something different. Trafford Centre, yep. Where one gentleman jumped on one of the Aibo and ripped its head off by saying, I don't want this robot in my life and I don't want them to replace me. And here it's really important to understand that robots are actually here to augment humans and make sure that humans are still involved, but at least they don't do all the mundane and hard work that it should do. For example, Amazon employees, before robots were around, they used to go to pick up all the different boxes, send them, and now everything is done automatically. And that's why I mention it in my book, but it's also, you can see it in everyday life. For example, in healthcare, more and more surgeons today use robots to operate on you. And we should be lucky about that, because, for example, when there's a brain aneurysm, or in any type of problem where it really requires very precise and details, basically, way of operating, then a robot could do it rather than with a man behind it, obviously, because the man can supervise all this, but the robot can be much more precise than a man. and that's why you see it more and more. I have a son who's in 6th year of medical school, and he tells me, he says, I want to do a specialty where I can use robots, because it just helps us. It engages us. It makes us better in our job, because we can see really how it operates, what it does that we couldn't be doing, and things like that. So yeah, robotic is an area, and coming out of robotic, you have drones today, because pretty much a drone is a robot that you have autonomous drones. You have drones that you can manage yourself. So you can see, coming from, robots. We've been talking about robots since the 1950s. I was not even born then, and today it's everywhere. If we talk about chatbots as well, they are kind of a bot. So even though they don't walk, they don't have the mobility, they make everyday's life a little bit easier for people who used to answer the phone all the time and get always the same questions. And here on top of it, you have machine learning, which then they will make sure that at least they learn, the robots learn more and more about what needs to be done and what has been said before. So at least it doesn't have to look at the database again for what needs to be said again. Things like, it really helps you gain on time, effort, and really at least take care of all the mundane aspect of your work.
So 4 minutes to go. Code, no code.
Code, no code. Yes. Well, when you're involved with artificial intelligence, you know that you need to have data scientists, and because they need to work on models, and they need to ensure that the data they gather will help in your business's priorities. With low code or no code platforms, it makes that everybody can work with AI without the need to recruit any data scientist, because all the work has been done before. It's like object programming that we used to have. You probably remember that, right? Yeah. The objects were already coded. So we used to take an object. I was in finance for a while, and we used to take an object like derivative trading or any specific derivative trading, and you would take that object and you would put it into your algorithm, and then automatically it will calculate for you. So you didn't need to go into those very complicated way of thinking and computing. Here it's the same thing, and I see, and that's one of my prediction, that low-code, no-code platforms are actually going to gain momentum, and you'll see that more and more. So that will help AI become more widely used.
So what about the Internet of Things?
Internet of Things, again, when I mentioned the example in China, was exactly that. It was getting connected objects to...
so this is putting some sort of... sensors on each of the objects.
Correct.
So we have had it in RFID for 30 years.
Absolutely. And now it's basically because you have more bandwidth with internet, with 5G, because you have more access to AI, because the time is right for connected objects. And you need to know that today you have more connected, more objects connecting to the internet than actually men connecting to the internet. So which is a big deal. And so basically, you can connect anything. A plant could tell you, I'm thirsty, because it will have a sensor that sense that the dirt is dry, and will send an email or a tweet saying your plant in that room is thirsty. That's the IoT, and that's what we're going to see more and more today.
Fantastic. And
1 minute left.
What about 5G in the last 60 seconds?
Well, 5G, again, everything's possible here. What I really like about all this is that we see the journey. Before we had 1G, which was not digital, was analog. Then we had 2G, which was the first digital version. I was with Sony at the time, so I helped launch 2G, 3G. Then I left Sony, but I saw the 4G launch, and now I can see the 5G launch. And 6G and even 7G is already being prepared. So the beauty of 5G is you have less latency, less than a millisecond. you have much bigger bandwidth. And also 5G is also better for the environment because, for example, when you have a base, 5G base, it gets idle, whereas 4G doesn't. At 4G, it's either on or off. With 5G, it's on, it's off, but it's also idle, which, you know, when nobody uses that base, it can switch off and then turn back on when somebody uses it. So there are many, many things. I count in 30 seconds. It was impossible for me. That was the biggest challenge, Tim. Thanks very much on this one. But yeah,
Nicolas, it's been fantastic, and you know, I'm just so impressed with your knowledge and your understanding of all these things, and the community that you have is just immense. You know, the way that people are willing to support you. You know, you post something on social, and the number of people that are willing to support you doing that, it's just amazing.
It's a win-win. You know, I'll do that for them, and I know they'll do that for me. And I've been in contact with some people since 2003 when I started LinkedIn, or 2009 when I started Twitter. So yeah, thank you, Mario. Mario is one of my.
I guess so. Yeah, thank you, Mario. Yeah,
one of my good friends also.
So, so remind people where they can get hold of you, and let's see your.
Yeah, again, at NicoChan33 on Twitter, at Nicolas Babin on LinkedIn, or again, just type Nicolas Babin and you'll on Google and you'll find me.
And your book, The Talking Dog, is available.
It's available on Amazon. It's available Amazon.com, Amazon.co.uk, and yeah, it's been very successful. So I'm extremely happy about it because again, that's exactly how I do it. I explain where we come from and where we're going to.
Fantastic, Nicolas. Thank you so much for today, and thank you so much for your insights and sharing all your experience. And
thank you.
I remember seeing one of those talking dogs. I must admit, I was so close to buying one, but I didn't.
It was expensive, I have to be honest.
They were expensive. I think that was
£2,000.
You know, it was like, you know, this is actually quite interesting, but do I really want to spend this amount of money? But
too bad we didn't talk at the time because I'm sure you would have bought it.
Well, yeah, but they were amazing things.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Nicolas, thank you so much for today. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye-bye.